Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another edition of Talking Ball. I am lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, joined by lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, too. Got to show that love, baby. No doubt. CJ's been busy, so CJ, I'm glad you had the time, man, to sit down with us during Talking Ball. You've been busy is a good thing because you got all the nuggets, and there's a lot going on the 40 acres. So we'll try to hit as much as we can about all the news. We'll get into, obviously, some discussion about the departures on the 40 acres, about guys who are deciding to stay on the 40 acres. Lots to hit here in your latest version of Talking Ball. Before we get started, though, shout out to our sponsor, John Donovan, president of Longhorn Wealth Management Group. We love these folks. They have been supporting us, and they're doing great work. They'll do great work for you, too. John is a proud Texas Ex's life member, and his wife, and all of his 6 of John's siblings are also UT grads. So it is a deep Longhorn family tradition and legacy that John has led him to dedicate his firm to providing total wealth management for Texas alumni, employees, family, and friends. John is a certified financial planner who has spent over 30 years, folks, 30 years providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to all of his clients. Longhorn Wealth is repeating its offer to extend each and every Longhorn alumni, employee, or fan a free 90-minute consultation to explore how Longhorn Wealth can help you develop and maximize your tax-free and your tax-efficient financial future. So please give John Donovan a call and his Longhorn Wealth team a call at 972-707-4900 or visit longhornwealth.net. That's 972-707-4900 or visit longhornwealth.net. All right, let's dive into all of these nuggets. Let's start with some of the news that happened earlier in the week. Early in the week, we did learn that Xavier Worthy was indeed deciding to declare for the NFL draft. He's not the only one, but let's start there. What are your thoughts about X-Man deciding to forego the rest of his eligibility and hit the NFL draft?
Yeah, well deserved. That decision came pretty quickly after the Sugar Bowl, so it wasn't much for a debate for Xavier Worthy. And, I don't think there was much question about it. He came in, put 3 years on tape, 3 really good years on tape, and is going to be leaving as one of the best, most decorated wide receivers in Texas football history. So I have to tip my cap. I think all Texas Longhorn fans should be grateful for the 3 years that Worthy was on campus for. And as I mentioned, he's third all time in touchdown receptions. I think he's fourth in total yards at the receiver spot. So I might have that flipped, but regardless, a top 5 wide receiver to ever play for the Texas Longhorns. One that did an incredibly important job of laying the foundation for what Steve Sarkisian wanted to do when he got here. Attract big time talent and get them on the field immediately. He was Sarkisian's first commit, and we're sitting here talking about how important he was for the last 3 seasons. So I'm excited for Xavier Worthy. I hope he goes out and finds a situation where he gets the ball pretty often, so we can sit here and celebrate more touchdowns and more big plays.
Yes, he's 6th in career receptions, 3rd in career touchdowns, 5th in career receiving yards. He's got 2 spots on the top 10 best single season touchdown campaigns, 2nd and 9th. Yeah, pretty damn good. I would say he's definitely a top 5 all-time receiver in Texas. I would say he's got a case to be in the top 3. It'll probably be really hard for anybody to ever surpass Jordan Shipley, who's the GOAT in my opinion. And then after him, I think it's Roy Williams. I'm sure if you want to flip those, you can flip those. But Xavier Worthy's got a pretty good case as one of the best receivers in Texas football history. What are your thoughts about where he'll get drafted? I've seen, anywhere from late 1st round to 2nd round. I think because it's a deep wide receiver draft, and it's really deep. I mean, they're talking about potentially 3 wide receivers going in the top 10. Marvin Harrison Jr. going as high as number 2 or 3 overall. I mean, that's really crazy. But there are a lot of receivers in this draft. They might push him down a little bit. What are your thoughts about where X-Man may land?
Yeah, I think he's a surefire 2nd-round pick. Like you said, it's a very deep wide receiver class. You talk about Malik Neighbors, obviously Rome Odunze, Marvin Harrison Jr., and obviously his own teammate A.D. Mitchell, should he declare for the draft as well. Yeah. Those are all guys that are going to clog up the wide receiving, needy teams, if you will. So I think if we go out and we see a 4.4 or sub 4.4 for Xavier Worthy, that's going to lock up a day 2 pick. I see anywhere right now from 35 to 55, kind of in that range on day 2. But to Xavier Worthy's credit, to have been in this position after just 3 years, incredible. Great growth, great production on the field, and it's not a knock to not be a first-round pick, because there's only 32 of them.
Come on.
So
yeah.
I certainly think right now he put enough tape, out there for NFL scouts to say we can take him day 2 and be completely happy.
Yep. No, I agree with you. I think he's a second-round pick, and I think honestly it's a better situation for him. It's a good chance a good team would trade up in the second round to get an Xavier Worthy. Yeah, fingers crossed for the Kansas City Chiefs because they need a lot of wide receivers. Let's talk about Jonathon Brooks. He also made his decision declared for the NFL draft as well. Jonathon Brooks obviously dealt with the season-ending injury that ended his what should have been a Doak Walker award-winning campaign for him. It was not, but he still had a hell of a season. I'll give you some stats a little bit later on here in our discussion about Jonathon Brooks. But he's departing CJ for the NFL. Running back has been devalued. We all know that in the NFL. Even if you are a first-round talent, still hard to be drafted in the first round these days as a running back. You had 2 of them last year, Jahmyr Gibbs and, of course, Bijan Robinson. What are your thoughts about Jonathon Brooks departing and what that does for the running back room, number one, but number 2 is prospects in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a double-edged sword with Jonathon Brooks because you look at it, like you said, running backs have been devalued. There's kind of a shorter shelf life with running backs, as we've already mentioned, and now he's entering the draft after a season where he's got a bit of a flattened tire, if you will. So that's unfortunate to start. However, he played well enough and was in the conversation to be the Doak Walker Award winner, to be a first-team All-American, certainly a first-team All-Conference Big 12 running back prior to his injury. There was already that conversation occurring. He skyrocketed up, big boards midway through the season. I keep going back to it. I was told that there were several NFL scouts who have him as the number 1 running back in the class, and that's even after the Texas running back's injury to his ACL. So I'm excited for Jonathon Brooks. I think it is the right decision because there's no guarantee that he comes back for another year and does not get hurt again. So go out there, get your guaranteed money, get your guaranteed contract, and let's see this NFL ball keep rolling with Texas running backs. And so that leads to the next point. How exciting is it that Texas is really becoming that top premier program for running backs again? I don't want to say there was ever a hiatus because there were some tremendous running backs. You go back and you look at Deontay Foreman, obviously Cedric. Who am I thinking here? Benson. Yeah, sorry.
Malcolm Brown, those guys.
Yeah, plenty of them. I mean, there's always been, even Fozzie. There wasn't guys who really took a step back from the production and the name of being a Texas running back to jumping into the NFL. So I'm excited that this continues with being, one of the first or second running backs off the board for continuous seasons. That's going to, again, help Tashard Choice, who probably doesn't need any help on the recruiting trail, but be able to go out there and handpick whoever he wants year in and year out.
Yeah, to your point, basically Pro Football says he's still the top running back on their big board overall, which is good news for him. He won't be able to work out the way the timeline of the injury, but he'll be able to go interview, which is really good. Hopefully he can go interview, and he'll interview well. But yeah, to your point, though, about Jonathon Brooks, what's going to help him is there does seem to be that the running back room for Texas now has a reputation. I mean, I don't say what are the odds, but man, for Texas, what an accomplishment for that running back room to be considered the best running back room potentially in the country for 3 years in a row.
Right.
It was like, Bijan and Rojo for 2 years back to back. And then after they leave, the assumption was there will be regression. And there wasn't that much regression.
Not a lot.
I mean, it should have been a lot, but it wasn't. And I think a lot of that's because of Jonathon Brooks. I'll give you a stat here. Shout out to my man, Christian Corona, does a great job with stats. Jonathon Brooks was one of 10 running backs this year to average 6+ yards per carry on 175+ carries while running for 10+ touchdowns. Of those 10, Brooks was one of 2 to also catch 25 passes and average 10+ yards per catch. The only Power 5 back to do it. And he did it in 10 games, more impressively. Nice. That's a nice stats there, but it just shows you. And in the last 8 games, over 1,000 yards in just the last 8 games, 6.4 yards per carry, 9 touchdowns, 22 receptions, averaging 10.9 yards per catch. Only 8 other running backs ran for as many yards while also having as many receiving yards for the entire season. and none averaged as many yards per carry and receptions as Brooks. So he is he's elite. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I'm with you. He put enough on film that if you're an NFL scout, an NFL team, and you can invest in him, they've expanded practice squads. You can stay on him longer. I think he's a guy I'd put on the practice squad for like a year. Just let him heal. Not that he can't make a roster. No, he can make a roster. But I want him to be healthy. I'm with you. I don't want re-injury. So I'd put him out there, let him get healthy, and then that's when I would probably break him out, and you would get great value because the chances are you're probably going to get him in the third round, somewhere around there, just because the value will get pushed down because of the running back position and also because of his injury. So either way, that guy's an NFL running back. I think we all agree. Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's continue because there's a lot of different news and nuggets coming from the 40 acres. Okay, let me ask you about this. We're talking about departures, and those are the only two confirmed. Well, Byron Murphy, I take that back. Let's talk about Byron Murphy really quickly. Byron Murphy confirmed that he's leaving, but I think that was a foregone conclusion. What are your thoughts about Byron Murphy? That defensive line room, and we'll kind of lead us into, I think, a segue into departures and also departures via the transfer portal, not guys who are just heading to the NFL, because the interior D-line room got some good news, some bad news, and then some uncertain news. Byron Murphy leaving, I guess for Texas fans, that's good and bad news. Alfred Collins returning, that's really good news. And then Trill Carter, really kind of uncertain about how that's going to affect the D-line room. Let's take all of those topics and let's kind of put them all together, CJ, and talk about the interior D-line for Texas.
Yeah, it's a lot. It sure is. And so the biggest question mark I have right now is, does Texas have enough bodies on the interior to continually play through their 4 or 5 man rotation, which we have seen throughout the duration of the season in the middle of that defensive line? Do they have enough bodies, and do they have enough talent to maintain what we saw this year as an elite run-stopping approach to the Texas defense?
Yeah.
That's going to be the big question. I know that Texas staff really, really thinks highly about what they have behind the scenes with Sadir Mitchell, Jeray Bledsoe, Aaron Bryant, these guys that are, really starting to come into their own body, really starting to grow and develop the way that Bo Davis wants and prefers, but there's not a lot of experience there. And so when you take out a Devondre Sweat, a Byron Murphy, and now a Trill Carter, things get, a little dicey because there's not a lot of on-field production. There's not a lot of experience. Like you said, Rod, I think Alfred Collins, should he return, that's one of the biggest wins for Texas this entire offseason. No matter who else they add, the 2024 class coming in as well. Excuse me. Alfred Collins coming back is massive because we saw just that leap that Devondre Sweat took from year 4 to year 5, winning the Outland and now being in consideration for a day 1, day 2 pick as well. So I'm not saying that's going to be the same path and trajectory of Alfred Collins, but if anyone can do it and make that leap, it's the guy that came in with 5 stars and all the untapped raw potential in the world that we've seen from the Bastrop native. So that's a huge victory for Texas, and we're going to have to see just how much of a jump he is able to make. But I'd like to get your thoughts because there's not a whole lot of depth there right now. How concerning is that for you that, Texas will be entering the SEC with, a bit of a question mark at that spot?
I agree because this defense, the identity of it, the last 2 years has been built on arguably the best D tackle room in the country. I mean, at least the deepest D tackle room in the country. And I think it's promising that Moro Ojimo and Kendrick Coburn both had breakout campaigns, right, 2 years ago. And then you get Byron Murphy and Sweat having breakout campaigns this year. So the hope is that Alfred Collins and someone else, maybe Vernon Broughton, whoever it may be, Sadir Mitchell you brought up, that they're going to have a breakout campaign here. You got the best interior D-line coach in the country in Bo Davis. You know that. And obviously his resume speaks for itself. But in front of you, if you're Alfred Collins, you've seen it. You've actually gotten a chance to see. You've been in the same room watching the growth and the transformation of these players in front of you. So I know why he came back, because he's thinking, man, if that guy can make me the best version of myself, like he did for Sweat and Murphy, and like he did for Coburn, like he did for Moro Ojimo, man, the sky's the limit. Guys, the truth is, if you're just looking at measurables, all right, we're just looking at tangible data points, just a physical, the physical skill set, the physical traits. He's probably got a higher upside just off his physical traits than any of the D linemen that have come up before him in that same room. But get Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but potential is just a word if you can't find a way to obviously close that gap between your potential and your achievement. And I think for him, the consistency is what we want to see. We see flashes from him and we go, wow, man, that's why he could have went to the NFL and somebody would have taken a chance on him, no doubt. Look at his body and look at the flashes. But if you can turn those flashes into consistency, then you're talking about potentially being one of the best D linemen in the country. We haven't seen that. And he's a guy that potentially, if he does reach his ceiling, he should be playing multiple shades. He shouldn't just be inside. You should be able to move him around the front. You should be, depending on the matchup, depending on obviously what team you're playing, how they want to approach offense, you should be able to move him around. He's got that kind of body and he's got that kind of skill set. He just hasn't been able to consistently put that tenacity, that intensity, that nasty on film. Like Byron Murphy is nasty. He's a nasty, mean guy. And even Jaron Thompson, he said, no, that guy's mean. He's a mean person. Right? No, on the football field, I'm sure off the field he's really nice and a gentleman, but on the field he's a mean dude, man. And I think in T'Vondre Sweat, I think you got to be able to flip that switch, and I think for him that's going to be the challenge. But if anybody can bring it out, it's Bo Davis, because Bo Davis is mean.
Yeah, no kidding. I've been workshopping this take a little bit, and I almost think that Alfred Collins interception, the one-handed interception in the bowl game against Colorado, was almost the worst thing for him, because that set expectations so tremendously high that sometimes there's a learning curve in the trenches that you just can't overcome, regardless of how talented or raw or physically impressive you are. So I look at that and I remember thinking after, I was like, interesting. This guy's 3 and done. This guy's a freak. But that's not always the case, and especially on the interior defensive line, you never know just how fine-tuned someone is with the pass rushing techniques, the hands game, which was a weakness for Collins coming into college. It's taken time, and we've seen that with Sweat, obviously Murphy, Coburn, Ojimo. All these guys were on the field for a number of years. Collins was actually pretty good this year when on the field. He was just obviously hidden behind Sweat and Murphy. So I'm excited to see him with a full slate, basically an entire offseason of saying, you're the man. Now go out there and play it, because there's no one else behind you that we feel can play as well as you. So that's what I'm really looking forward to right now.
I like that hot take. I would retweet that hot take. I would favorite it. That's good. That's a nice take, brother. I like that. All right, moving on here. Let's continue. Okay, real quick, just a quick one. Quinn's announcement hasn't come yet. Everybody knows he's coming back. I mean, that's a foregone conclusion. Everybody believes it. If there's a decision to make, it's 95-5 or something like that. Is it possible that he's not going to make an announcement and he's just thinking, you know what, why should I have to make an announcement? I mean, if I was going to the league, that's when I'd make an announcement. But right now, the assumption is I'm coming back. Is that what's going on? Or is he prepping the hype video? Did he have to change it because he was thinking national title and they lost? So he had to. What's going on with the announcement? Is just not having one and not having an announcement?
And that certainly could be the case. Scrubbing some of the clips of the expected trophy celebration and whatever. I mean, it could be the case. Quinn, I mean, as we've all seen throughout his entire career here, not a big media guy, not a big flashy light bulbs or a guy that is eager really to go talk to the media. I look at that Sugar Bowl photo of Arch with all the media scrum and Quinn looking back over his shoulder, looking like, oh, all right, as something that Quinn was probably pretty happy about. So it wouldn't surprise me to not see an announcement at all and just see it kind of leaked out, either it be through his camp or, from Texas itself making a decision as well or making a release. So I don't know. That's a good question, but that's
his personality. You're right about that. His disposition. If he doesn't put out one, it actually fits. It tracks. Yeah. Because he's just kind of understated. That stuff doesn't really matter to Quinn. Okay, just something I would throw out there. All right, since we're wrapping things up, coming close to wrapping things up, we talked about a lot of different things. I want to ask you about Jay Witt's message. He put out a message to the fans. He's exhausted his eligibility, obviously, but it was a really sentimental message. It was really cool. I don't know. Listen, I don't know if this has penetrated the locker room or if this is something that great minds think alike. But about 5 or 6 years ago, I started throwing it out there, and I've told you this too. there are two types of Texas football players: the guys that come to play for Texas and the guys that come to play at Texas. In his statement, in his message, he says, I am honored to be a guy that came to play for Texas, not at Texas. I've been using that for probably 7 years now. That's been one of my takes for about 7 years. I don't know if me and Jay Witt just think alike or if it's penetrated, but I love it. I'm a bigger Jay Witt fan. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have a conversation with Jay Witt coming up this weekend. We're going to do a third Longhorns special edition with my man Jay Witt. But this is what I want to say about Jay Witt. And I think I went off about this before, but he's been kind of a walking testimony for that team in his sacrifice and commitment to try to be the best person he can be, the best player he can be, so that the team will benefit from it, so that he can help the team as much as he can. And that attitude, I'm here to play for. And here was my take. And years ago, when I said the same thing, it's like the old JFK quote, right? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Same premise. Ask not what Texas can do for you, but what you can do for Texas. The Rojos and the Jay Witts, they want to know what I can do for Texas. How can I help Texas? What can I do to leave this program better than I found it? And the at Texas guys, they want to know, hey, man, where them ACL tickets at? Where them South by Southwest tickets at? Hey, man, my social media got to be popping. Where them NIL dollars at? All right, where it's at? I need to know. And listen, I played with both. By the time I left, we had more for Texas guys than at Texas guys. But Jay Witt, and by the way, Texas right now, I think got more for Texas guys too. But Jay Witt's a culture bearer. And ever since Rojo, I've been using this term too. Someone who walks around that locker room and walks around that program, and they bear the burden of the culture. All right, they bear it on their shoulders constantly. They ain't even got to be the best player on the team or the best player in that room. Rojo wasn't. Jay Witt ain't. But they embody the culture, because culture is just habits. What you do every day. Same attitude, same tenacity, same vigor, attacking it, trying to conquer it. Obsessive with the process. That's Jay Witt. He changed his diet. He changed his physiology. He changed his workout. He changed his habits, getting there earlier, staying late, just so he can warm up and warm down properly. And it all resulted in him being able to play through a season. Everybody watched his struggles. We did. Players in the locker room did too. They also watched the work he put in to transform and transmogrify his skill set in his body so that he could play on the team. And they watched him play every game without complaining about targets and target share, just blocking for his teammates. If Brendan Marion was right, and you show your love for your teammates by what you do without the football, then Jay Witt he loves his teammates more than anybody else on that team.
I don't think I can put any type of words to add on to that, because I think you touched it all. The one point I do want to add is, I mean, he came in as a guy who set records for rushing and touchdowns in the state championship at Cuero, just to move positions or get acclimated to a new spot full time, and fully embrace that. You know, he wasn't a me as we've seen and talked about, but it was, like you said, a total team guy, total what can I do to help the team? You know, and I look at Roschon Johnson and Jordan Whittington as really the two pillars of guys that have embodied that for Texas. You know, Roschon came in, changed quarterback to running back right away. Everything he did, he was on special teams, kickoff, punt, whatever. He was there to help the team win games. And, you know, I don't think you can ever truly have enough of those guys in the locker room. But when those guys are as, you know, kind of revered and appreciated as a Jordan Whittington and a Roschon Johnson, it only helps, you know, encapsulate that culture, you know, down to the newest incoming freshmen. So I think, every Texas fan should be looking at Jordan Whittington with appreciation for what he's done in his 5 years as a Texas Longhorn, because it's very rare to see that nowadays, especially for a guy who was, you know, so, you know, had so many medals, accolades, awardments, achievements coming out of high school that, you know, it could have been very easy for him to not have seen the field right away and say, you know, someone else down the road will want me. But credit to Jordan Whittington, a lifetime Longhorn, a Longhorn legend, whatever you want to call it. He was a perfect encapsulation of what Texas culture under Steve Sarkisian wanted to be and has now become.
Yep, and like you say, he wanted to be here. He could have transferred and thought, you know what, fresh start, somewhere new, somewhere I can get more targets, they'll value me more. Like Rojo, hell, nobody would have blamed you for transferring. Matter of fact, a lot of people expected you to transfer, and he didn't, because he wanted to be at Texas. Sorry, he wanted to play for Texas. I apologize. He didn't want to be at, I mean, you know the difference. All right. Last subject here. I want to ask you about this because we were talking about it in the pre-show kind of conversation. The Oklahoma Sooners made a staff change. As a matter of fact, I don't know if it's a mutually parting of ways or if it's Brent Venables deciding to make a change, but their defensive coordinator and linebackers coach Ted Roof is no longer going to be responsible for the defense. He's moving on. Brent Venables making changes, and they've already hired a guy. They already hired. Yeah, I can't believe this is fast. Apparently, they already hired a 30-year-old prodigy. Apparently, Zach Alley is his name, from Jacksonville State as the DC. Wow. Brent Venables in his second year already making that change.
Yeah, very, very quick on the search. Venables clearly knew where he wanted to go with making this move. The word behind the scenes is Venables wanted a more hands-off approach to coaching the defense. And so he went out and added Zach Alley out of Jacksonville State, who had a pretty good year for Jacksonville State. Venables, the steps that defense took from this year went from 30 points per game to about 23.5, right outside the top 40 in the country. So you see the improvement, but this is a lot that Oklahoma's kind of have to, go into the SEC with new faces. They're going to have a first-time starting quarterback. They're going to be replacing 4 or 5 offensive linemen from a year ago, brand new offensive coordinator, and now a brand new defensive coordinator. Yeah. And while that won't change a whole lot, it's still going to be Venables' defense. It's going to be a new guy to sit there in the huddle and practice, wondering, how do I relate to him? How do I get my points across? How do I ask questions? There's a lot that goes into familiarity. And I'm looking at Texas right now with same head coach, D coordinator, offensive coordinator, and a third-year Quinn Ewers thinking, wow, this is, Texas is losing a lot, but thank goodness those positions are locked up for right now, because that's going to be a pretty big hurdle once SEC play starts going and gets going week in and week out.
That's a great point about the continuity. And Sark being the play caller, Flood and him are pretty much tied. So you got your OC, your DC, Pete Kwiatkowski. Sark, a lot of people wanted pressure on him to move on from PK. Now PK is shining, doing a great job. And there was some interest, I thought, from the West Coast about some job openings for PK, but PK stuck around. And Jeff Banks, you got your special teams coordinator who's also been there too. You're right about that, man. That's a great point there, CJ, about the continuity with Texas. All right, before we get out of here, let's thank our sponsors once again. Thank you to John Donovan, president of Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John is a proud Texas Excess Life member, and his wife and all 6 of John's siblings are also UT grads, baby. That is a legacy, if I ever heard of one. This is a deep Longhorn tradition in this family, and that led John to dedicate his firm to providing total wealth management for Texas alumni, employees, family, and friends. That's right. He's all about the family. John is a certified financial planner who has spent over 30 years, folks, providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to all of his clients. Longhorn Wealth is repeating its offer right now. They're going to extend each and every Longhorn alumni out there right now listening and watching, employee or fan, a free 90-minute consultation. That's right, folks, free 99, a free 90-minute consultation to explore how Longhorn Wealth can help you develop and maximize your tax-free and tax-efficient financial future. So please give John Donovan and his Longhorn Wealth team a call at 972-707-4900. That's 972-707-4900, or visit longhornwealth.net. That's longhornwealth.net. All right, CJ, I appreciate the time as always, man. You were great. And next week on Talkin Ball, hopefully we're talking about some good news for the Longhorns. More guys deciding to stay, but something tells me we'll be talking about more news about Longhorns deciding that they're going to declare for the NFL draft, which is also good news, by the way. That's good news too. Development at an all-time high, baby.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm looking forward to it, Rod. Excuse me, a lot going on with Texas football right now, and man, it's a fun time coming off the Sugar Bowl run, heading into the SEC.
Yep, no doubt. See, CJ all choked up about it, man. Getting emotional.
Yeah, Jordan Whittington's video got me, man. That's what it is.
That's real. All right, guys. Until next week, for my man CJ and for myself, thank you guys for watching, and hook 'em.